Yo, what up, High and Wide fam? I'm Delco Dave here with the man, Jim Icavone, and we get to celebrate a win. This is one of the few times we get to come over here and hang out in HW not after a win. Jim, what'd you think when you saw the game tonight, man?
I'm not even sure how to react. Like, what are we supposed to do right now? Right? I mean, they won. I'm not used to them not winning on a Saturday. We talked
That
about that the other night. They're 2-0 in their last two Saturday games. All of a sudden, they're winning games on Tuesday nights now. You know,
oh, yeah,
I
it's
don't know how to
wild. I mean,
handle this.
and this one absolutely belongs to Carter Hart. I sent a little tweet out in the middle of the second period. It said he might see 50 shots. He fell a little short. He only saw 48. Only 48 shots.
Damn close, right? 48 shots against, 47 saves. Outstanding effort from Carter Hart. And you know the whole time I'm thinking watching this is, you have a goalie like this, and I don't mean to bring it into the whole this versus that conversation again, but you have a goalie like this, you don't need to have a top skill team. Like, you can build a team around your goalie and advance in the playoffs. That's what I was thinking watching this game. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself the way the Flyers have played, but Carter Hart absolutely stood on his head tonight, showed you what he can be. And then you have guys like Oscar Lindblom scoring. I think that's now 21 points in his last 33 games. Scotty Lawton shows up on both goals, 2 assists tonight. Number one center, Scott Lawton. Um,
future
Travis Connect.
cap, future captain Scott Lawton.
There you go. Travis Konechny, another assist. I mean, guys that you want to see on the score sheet in Lawton, Konechny, Provorov with an assist. Lindblom showed up on the score sheet. Norris Trophy candidate Justin Braun scored the opening goal. He might not be a Flyer in a couple weeks, but that's a big win. It has to feel good for the room. And maybe this is something they can build on. It's got to be a monstrous confidence boost for Carter Hart, at least.
Oh, I think there's a huge game for Carter Hart. And now, so they finished the homestand 3-4-1, points in half the games, which is huge. But yeah, as far as Carter Hart goes, it has to be huge for his confidence. This has been a rough season, and he's been the one rock throughout this entire year. This man has showed up every game. I think he put to bed. I think he put to rest any concerns most of his doubters had. Maybe not everybody else. There might be still some people holding out because that's just how this Flyer fan base is. But Carter Hart absolutely showed up tonight, and he's been doing it all year. Any doubter should be, falling back and being quiet these days.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to I know fans can be emotional. It's easy to get caught up in the emotion of we expected so much and we're disappointed. It's hard to kind of stay in the middle and go, well, let's take a step back, reassess the team here. Let's see who we got, who's going to stay. And as our buddy Cliff Watling comments here, Carter Hart is the future of the Flyers, right? This is the goalie that we've been waiting for our entire lives.
Yeah.
Right. And now you got him. So let's put a team in front of him, right? Like, he can steal you games. That's what he did tonight. The Flyers were lucky
100%.
enough to get 2 goals in the first period, a pretty one from Lindblom. And they found a way to win. It wasn't pretty. That they couldn't have done it without Carter Hart, but hey, he's going to get the big bucks one day. And these are the kind of games that you need once in a while.
They were outshot more than 2-1 tonight, and they still won the game 2-1. Like that, this game is on the goalie. Carter Hart won this game tonight, and that's exactly what it is. And like you said, we've been waiting for this goalie for years, our whole lives, right? Let's not waste his career like we wasted Claude Giroux's. All right, let's not waste it. Let's go win right now. All right, let's not go for a 6, 7, 8 year rebuild. Let's find a way to win right now. So Carter Hart isn't 33, hanging on by a thread, trying to go win a cup after 7 straight losing seasons.
Right. I mean, so we just had Marco D'Amico of Montreal Hockey Now on our show. I think it was last week, and he mentioned there are similarities between Carter Hart and Carey Price, and that was a compliment. But there's, I think, a point where you want the similarities to stop. And for me, that's, Carey Price was not in a Stanley Cup until last season. right? Because Montreal's kind of been floundering around a little bit as far as the roster. Marco also mentioned they had not had a point per game player in since Alexei Kovalev. I don't know how long ago that was, but I think it was at
Man.
least 20, at least, I don't know, 2010. Is it before
Yeah,
2010?
but say mid 2000s, 2010.
Yeah. So it's like, wins like tonight obviously aren't pretty. And, there is an argument to say, well, the Flyers should have lost this game, outshot 2-1. I'm not going to argue with you, right? But the point is they have a goalie that prevented that. Don't you want to put a team in front of this kid and win more games? Because it can be done. Like I'm looking at Carey Price's stats right here. So it took him about 2-3 years to really be a dominant netminder, right? And I think Carter Hart's in his third or fourth year.
Yeah.
So, so this is not going to be popular again. You put a physical, defensive-minded team with a line or two that can put the puck in the net, and you have a team that can do some damage. If you have a guy like Carter Hart in goal, and he's the key. Like you have a pillar that you can build with or build around. So tonight kind of it may have even strengthened both arguments. It strengthens, I think, ours, and we got the goalie. Like, why do you want to mess around for? And on the other side, it's but they got outshot 2-1. Like, how many games are you going to have like this, right?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think of a team like Boston. When you talk about it this way, between Tim Thomas and Tuukka Rask, they had that goalie, whether it was one or the other, for years, and they were built around one really dominant line, like that Bergeron, Marchand, Pasta line. Like that's been a dominant line for them, and they've been successful at that. And that's really it. It's been one line. Even when they try to break them up and split it up, they go back to them in a few games, and they rely on a stud goalie that can steal them some games and a top line that can dominate the competition when they're out there. Like regardless of how you feel about Boston, when you have Bergeron, Marchand, and Pastrnak out there all together, you're hard pressed to find a better complete line in the entire league. I mean, I don't care about the Matthews Marner pairing. I don't care about when you put McDavid and Draisaitl together. Player for player, position for position, three players across the board. Bergeron, Pasta, Marchand probably tops the board. I don't know who else you're going to put out there against them. And so you mentioned that having a line or two. I don't even know if you need a line or two. You can get one dominant line, a stud goalie like we have, and then a bunch of players that will make the opposition miserable. You can win that way because that's been the Boston model for the last 15 years, and it's worked.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their roster now, and obviously, guys you mentioned, Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron, they went out and added, a Taylor Hall last year, who's contributing 41 points in 57 games. I think you'd probably want a little bit more from Taylor Hall, but I think that the guys that get overlooked for Boston, like subtle acquisitions that do a ton, guys like Charlie Coyle and a guy like Craig Smith, two tough defensive-minded centers that can put the puck in the net too, right?
Yeah.
So they're extremely deep down the middle. You had, a Norris. I'm sorry, not a Norris. What's the defensive forward award? The Selke. A
Selke,
Selke
yep.
nominee almost every single season, won it more than anybody in the league. Like, you got to be tough down the middle, and that's what Boston did. And you look at the rest of their roster. You're right. I mean, they have the 3-4 guys, and everybody else kind of supports that. They play the tough, grindy game. You're not going to beat Boston easily. And if that line gets going, you're probably going to lose most nights. You add in, they had Tuukka Rask, and this year they have Swayman, and they went out and signed Olmark in the offseason. Swayman's having a ridiculous year, 2.03 goals against average, 9.27 save percentage. But, to your point, you have that one scoring line, and the rest of your guys make it a bitch to play against.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we're on the same page here, like at least me and you, that we don't have to, burn it down because we can build this up quickly. Like you can put together an elite line real quick on this team. If Claude Giroux is one wing, Atkinson's another, you need an elite center, one elite center, and that line could compete. I feel like that line, maybe not every night, maybe 6 out of 10 times they would lose against Boston, head up against Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasta. But G, Atkinson, and an elite center, or even if G's in the center, you bring an elite winger. But those are guys that compete and dominate against teams most nights. And then you had an elite goalie back there in Hart. Like right there, that's a proven recipe for success. Like I don't think this season's been brutal, but I don't think we're as far off as some people think we are.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And that's not to say I'm not sitting here saying the Flyers are Stanley Cup contenders. If they run it back next season, um, but I do think they're a playoff team, and you have people going, "Oh, well, that's not what they should be playing for." Well, yeah, you play to get in the playoffs, right? Anything can happen. Think about the 2010 Flyers or last year's Montreal Canadiens, right? It's all about matchup. If you get matched up against the right team, ask the Columbus Blue Jackets how they beat the best regular season team in the NHL, right? The Tampa Bay Lightning a couple of years back. All it takes is matchup. So, you know how hard it is to build a bona fide Stanley Cup contender, right? There's only a handful of teams every year that are bona fide contenders, and so only one team can win. So that's great if you're one of those five, but not all five can win the Stanley Cup. So I'm looking at the Flyers roster, and I think I was talking to Jack about this a little earlier. There's a lot of ifs. So if I'm going to pump my brakes a little bit on this Flyers team, it's going to be that there are ifs, right? Dave, the first one and probably the biggest one is Sean Couturier, right? Back surgery, that's no joke. If he can come back and be the same player, then I don't think he's elite, but he's like as close as you can get to elite. I mean, his defensive game's phenomenal. His offensive game, he's, close to a point per game player, if not that, 70, 75 points. You put him look what Derek Brassard was doing with Atkinson and Farabee, right? Like you put Coots with a guy like that, maybe the Flyers go out and sign somebody in the offseason. They put him up on the top line. You never know. Maybe Atkinson's a 35 goal scorer. Coots is 75. And whoever they get, if it's Johnny Gaudreau, maybe those numbers even go up. I don't know. I think one of the crucial pieces, one of the big dominoes that has to fall is moving JVR. And then you can kind of go, okay, now the next move, now it looks a little bit clearer, the picture here, right?
100%. I would sell a kidney to get JVR moved.
If you will, I know someone that needs one. So
yeah, JVR would be gone tonight if it were up to me. I'd be like, you need a left pinky, one kidney, and some hair. Done. Let's go. Let's sign it up. I got you. Yeah, I agree. We got to get that move. That's every show I feel like we harp on Hextall, and it gets old after a while. But I feel like you can't go back to just the signings, the drafting, the like everything was just brought down by that man here. Like he was a bull in a china shop when it came to this organization, and I just feel like everything went south on him, and we're still dealing with these repercussions. We have second round picks that are never going to sniff the AHL that he drafted. We have an anchor that is JVR, $7 million that we're going to have to pay somebody to move. Like we're literally going to have to, if we move him this offseason, it's going to cost us at minimum a third round draft pick. It's going to be a third round Patrick and JVR for nothing. That's going to be the trade. Like, so I mean, unfortunately that's just how it is. But like you said, if we can move JVR, we can then go get somebody, like you said, Johnny Gaudreau. You know what I mean? Philip Forsberg, so many people have talked about. Like, are we one superstar player away from being that competitive? And I personally think we are, because, sometimes when people look at things and just the straight up numbers, it's like, oh, well, this guy's done this much, 75, 80, 85 points in a season. Like, oh, yeah, that would be really nice, but how much does that do? But what people tend to forget about is like the unseen benefits of that guy. When you have a player like that, it opens everything up for everybody else. Like when you have a guy that draws that much attention, that creates that many plays, it makes the job easier for everybody else out there on the ice. So when you bring a stud in like that, when you bring a superstar in like that, there are other side benefits to it. And so I don't think a big splash in free agency, it would harken back to the homegrown days, which I would love. I would love to see big splash, being big players out in free agency, because that would send a sign to the fan base that, hey, listen, we're playing to win. We're going for it right here, right now. We're not talking 3, 5, 10, 36 years down the road. We're going for it right here today, which is what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean that's what for so long that's all we talked about was, oh, this team used to be this, these guys used to be that. They used to just go out and get whoever they want. And that's kind of what we want to happen, right? Like they did it last year. A couple were trades. They went out and got their guy in Ristolainen, whether you like him or not. They went out. You have to respect that about Chuck, right? Whether you like the player or not, he went and got his guy. Did he overpay? Yeah, probably, but he went and got his guy. He believes that this is a piece that's going to make the team or bring aspects to the team that they lacked, and he went and got him. Regardless of what you think, I have to respect that because he went for it, right? He had some balls, which is what you want from your GM. He flipped Voracek for Atkinson, I think was a great deal. Both players were good. Atkinson, obviously is bringing the goal scoring to the club. I think Voracek has 2 goals this year. And then the third move, unfortunately, didn't pan out, but he somehow managed to convince teams to take Nolan Patrick and Phil Myers and landed a top 2 defense partner. So he went for it last year, and there's nothing in my mind that would tell me that he's not going to do the same thing this summer. You know what I mean? I think they just have to give it a shot. Like, I understand that this season didn't go as planned, right? So everyone's a little bit demoralized, and I get it because for so many years, Dave, like we've just been waiting, waiting and waiting. We're 2 to 3 years away. We got to wait for the kids to come up. The ones that are supposed to be here are here and have been here. It's time to add to the roster, right? Carter Hart's in goal. Don't waste these years, right? He's still a kid. He's going to be in his prime in another couple of years. Build a team and see what you. That's why we watch. I'm tired of watching for let's see if Johnny so and so from the OHL is going to come up and play this year. I can't wait. You know what I mean? I'm tired of that.
Yeah, and plus, this team doesn't have a great track record, at least in developing talent. Like it doesn't happen frequently. So if you don't have faith in the organization to groom these players and build these players up to their potential, like why are we waiting then? What are we waiting for? Go get veteran talent. Go do it. It's proven to be successful other places. You can go ahead and get veteran talent. Let's put guys on the ice that can produce right here, right now. Like you said earlier, there's only so many teams that are built to be perennial contenders all the time. Like not everybody's a Tampa Bay Lightning. And Tampa Bay took their lumps, but now Tampa Bay's a contender every single year. But not everybody's built that perfectly. And it took them a while. Stamkos was there for a long time before they actually managed to build a team up around him. I don't want to wait that long again. And we have the pieces in place right now that like I said, we could just be one superstar away, and that could be all it takes.
Yeah, and that sounds weird to say, right? Because considering the hockey that we're watching, and then like you go turn on, let's say over the weekend, I think Saturday night, I ended up watching Calgary and Colorado, and those teams are flying. And so when you hear, yeah, maybe the Flyers are a player or two away, they're a player or two away and a coach, right? Like the right coach. I think I posed a poll question a couple months back, and it maybe was premature, and maybe people didn't really understand where I was coming from, but they do now. Like I'm in the mindset where I'm not rebuilding. The Flyers are going to field or ice a competitive team next year, so and I would assume that if it doesn't, and by doesn't work, I don't mean they're going to be a top 5 pick. In my mind, doesn't work means they get they lose in the first round, right? So the next coach is crucial because he's going to be here for the next 3 seasons at least, right? And you don't. I mean, if he's here for less than 3 years, something went very wrong, right? Like Alain Vigneault was supposed to be here for 5, and he made it through 2.5. Something went very wrong there. So that's all. I think the next coaching hire is very important. I think the poll, the way I posed it was, is it the most important coaching hire in Flyers history or something? Yeah, that's a little dramatic, but it gets people clicking the poll,
I don't know how dramatic that is, though. Like, we haven't won anything in almost 50 years. Like, is it really
well, you
that
put it that
dramatic?
way.
Yeah, like, is it really that traumatic? Like, yo, we need a coach, man. Like,
It's important. It's a big deal. You need a freaking
yeah,
coach.
yeah, like we need somebody that can, set a tone for this organization. I mean, you see it all the time in football. I mean, head coaching hires are like big deals when it comes to the NFL and stuff like that. You got a guy like Andy Reid that went from here in Philly, had a ton of success, never won a big one. Went to KC, an organization that had very little success, and then he went ahead and turned it around. Like, he built that organization up. Like, is there a guy out there like that? Like, honestly, I thought AV could have been that guy. Like, that guy had a ton of success, Vancouver, New York, a couple Stanley Cup Finals, but like, he was still hungry. Like, I like never won it, so I thought he was gonna come here, he's gonna be hungry. We're gonna go win. Like, we were gonna go do stuff, and it just didn't happen that way. And honestly, I almost felt like he may have been a victim of just like, there's only so much you can do when the team's falling apart when it comes to injuries. Like, the amount of man games he lost. Like, if you're competing with a semi AHL team, how are you going to compete at a certain level? And somebody's head had a roll, so it was AV's head who rolled. You know what I mean? But the hiring, the coaching hire is going to be huge. If you find the right guy to push the right buttons, because the margin for error and the profit margin at the NHL level is so slim that the right guy pushing the right buttons can truly take a team from top 10 draft pick to playoff team. Like, that's the kind of slide just a good coach can make. So I think you're right. The coaching hire, it might be the most important hire in Flyers history right now. It's been half a century since we won a cup.
I
But
mean, certainly in our history, right?
oh, without a doubt.
Like, this is the worst period of Flyers hockey that I mean, I can't speak for what came before me because we didn't live through that. So, but for us, this is by far, like, we're in the abyss right now. And just when we thought we were handed a paddle over the summer, we get it ripped right back, and it's like, well, we're in the same spot. But fortunately, we're going to get the paddle back this summer, and maybe even another one. Maybe we'll be able to, maybe we get a coach who's the captain of the ship or something. I don't know. I don't know why I'm still going with that analogy, but
Yeah, but
you know what
like
I mean.
but like with Ryan Ellis, right? If Ryan Ellis comes back and plays 80% to Ryan Ellis, right? Like, if he's just 80% of what he's been, you know what I mean? Like, is he good to go? Like, how much of a difference does 80% of Ryan Ellis do?
I think it does a lot. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how much does that do for Ivan Provorov? Just, I said, not people say, he's got a major injury. What's he gonna do when he comes back? So I'm not even saying 100% Ryan Ellis. 80% Ryan Ellis is still what, minimum a number 2 defenseman. Definitely a top 4 guy, right? So you add a top 4 guy back to this roster. How much of a difference does that make? Justin Braun's not playing top 4 minutes anymore. You know what I mean? He's his shoulder up there. Justin Braun doesn't have to break his hand and go score a goal for us. He doesn't have to do that anymore. You know what I mean? What I mean? He's not playing bottom third minutes. So just something like that. Bringing 80% of Ryan Ellis back. Kevin Hayes, getting Kevin Hayes for a whole season. How much does that do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how much does Kevin Hayes do for us?
I agree. And so, to your point, because you mentioned it, Ryan Ellis coming back does 2 things. Obviously, he's a good player in his own right. So your top right-handed D spot is strengthened. But he also makes Ivan Provorov better, which is what we've been wanting from Ivan Provorov. We've been wanting him to play better. And I get that people there's a thought out there, well, you should be good even without, you should make your other D partner better. And I get that, but sometimes it helps to play with somebody good. Not that Justin Braun's not good, but he's not top pair level good. Like, come on. Like, this is who you got Ivan Provorov playing with?
He's
Come
been
on.
around forever. Like, you didn't bring him in to be a top pair, a top 4 guy. This guy was supposed to be your bottom pairing. It's like he was supposed to be the Sean O'Donnell edition from 2010. Like, that's what he was supposed to be. That guy just plays that bottom pair. You know what I mean? The guy that shows up, helps out, veteran presence. Make sure that third pair doesn't screw up too much.
Yeah, I agree. With that, I think our guest has joined, Dave.
Our man from Jock Market, the fastest growing daily fantasy sports app out there. We have our very special honored guest, Jonathan Bell.
Guys, I am so sorry for being late. That is totally my fault, but I'm so happy to be here on the show now. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely, man. We're glad you showed up. By the way, ignore all the emails I sent you asking you to come on, by the way. Just
No, it's dude, it is my fault. I'm so sorry. But let's talk. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely, man. So we basically been covering Flyers and the recap. We
Mhm.
covered just about everything good for the Flyers, but we also do fantasy sports and
Yep.
sports betting and stuff. So why don't you? I'm gonna give you the floor for a little bit, Jonathan.
Yeah,
You go ahead. You talk about Jock Market, what you do. Just the floor is yours for a little bit. Explain everything about you and
awesome.
Jock Market.
Well, actually, I'd actually like to rewind a little bit to tie it back into hockey, and then I can talk jock market if that's okay with you.
Oh
So
yeah, we talk hockey all the time. Go ahead, man.
yeah, absolutely. So I love hockey. I'm a Bruins fan. So sorry about
Oh,
our
jeez.
rivalry there. But so a few years ago, I actually just recently attended Sloan Sports Analytics at MIT. Have you guys ever heard of that? Or
Yeah,
I'm not sure. So yeah, it's a
sure,
sports
man.
analytics conference at MIT. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was still in college and I attended Sloan Sports Analytics and I went to this presentation. And it was by a couple of mathematicians at MIT. And what they did is they were like, okay, this guy for his thesis wanted to build a model for DraftKings. He wanted to build a DraftKings model. So him and his professor, they worked for a long time. They kind of dialed it in. They got their model in, and then the guy's like, okay, cool. Like, here's my thesis. So the professor was like, no, here's $5,000, and we're gonna try this out. And they tried it out on fantasy football, and they won a bunch of money. But then they were like, okay, how can we get this better? So what they did is they looked for sports where they could more easily kind of find an advantage or find an edge. And where do they find that? Well, they found it in hockey. And I'm curious if either of you two can guess why they settled on hockey.
Hmm. If I had to guess, I'd say it's correlation.
Exactly. The lines, right? So if someone scores on a line, the other two people on the line are just way more likely to get an assist, which is really helpful in hockey, where scoring events are like way more rare than in football or basketball. So what they essentially tried to do is they would try to max enter as many lineups as they could to kind of get their probability distribution for more of like okay, most of the lineups finish in the middle and not very many finish on the tails where all the money is in a DraftKings contest, to a place where, okay, maybe a ton of them are terrible and miss the money, but those select few win all the money all the way at that end. And they actually won a DraftKings contest 7 straight days. One of their lineup was in first place. DraftKings invited them to their suite in Gillette Stadium. They're like, yeah, we got to change the rules because of you. So I thought that was really, really cool. And that's kind of what got me started on fantasy sports and sports analytics. And then end up getting to Jock Market. So now I'm going to kind of explain what the Jock Market
Wait.
is.
Before you jump in the Jock Market, hold on. I want to tell you. So those guys are playing MME tournaments as far as what the lineups were. Like they were doing mass entries for the
They were
same
max
contest.
entering GPPs. They were max entering GPPs, and they were just doing. They had their model that would spit out, okay, here's the lines, and it was correlation on lines and goalie wins. So that was their two huge edges. They'd be like, okay, which goalies are the most likely via Vegas odds to win, and also which lines are we projecting to score the most points? They would enter 200 lineups, and they would flatten that probability curve to give them the max edge of coming up in the tails where all that money is. So that was their edge, kind of changing the normal distribution to like a flatter distribution where they would be way more likely to finish in first as last, but in an exponential distribution of prizes. That's where you want. And hockey was how they won. You can like read the paper and watch the talk. It's still up there on YouTube and stuff. Really, really cool stuff. And like the guy, they donated all the money to charity, but like the it's really funny to watch like the student, like the professor keeps giving him this money and he keeps winning. It's like a scene straight out of like Rain Man or Rounders. It was really, really cool.
Oh, that's it. Actually, I got to look that up. That's an awesome story.
Really
But
cool story, and it involves hockey too. So it was a really cool presentation. And the kicker was none of them knew anything about hockey.
no, but here's the thing. So that's how I write 2 articles mostly, besides doing the show for High and Wide Hockey. One of them is based on hockey game environments for DFS, right?
Yeah.
Which games I identify that might have that should have the highest propensity for scoring, the highest goals scored, right? So if you identify those games, you then correlate lines within those games,
Exactly.
right? And that's where you should identify. That's where you want to concentrate your attention and fade the rest of the slate. So when there's an 8, 9, 10 game slate, if you focus on the 2 or 3 games that are identified, that's where you should find the scoring. It should set yourself apart. And then
Exactly.
the second one I write is called the Crease Report, and it focuses exactly on the second thing you talk about: goalie wins, save accumulation, and potential save and shutout bonuses.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what you're talking about, and that's what they essentially used in their edges. And then people basically, it was really cool. They kind of set a precedent. Then a few Sloans later, these people talked about using their edges for football, but then those people projected ownership, which is kind of even going beyond. The math on the second one was like kind of way over my head, but it was essentially like they changed it to those people were just like, okay, we're trying to flatten the probability curve, get to whatever. The other people were like, well, if we can project ownership, we can project a score. And we know that in DraftKings, all we need to do is beat the 18th or 20th X percentile score to be in the money. You're not beating the house, you're just beating other players. So they kind of improved on their math that way, which was like crazy, but really cool stuff.
Yeah, you got me thinking now, man. I've been a single entry and three max player my whole most of like NHL DFS career, but man, maybe I'll go MME for a little bit. Do a little.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're trying to do, what your edge is, and your bankroll. I think there's a lot of different stuff. Now, we can tie all that into Jock Market, where that's Jock Market. I feel like has actually
spending power matters on Jock Market. Your buying power matters.
Your buying power certainly matters, but I think your ability to build a bankroll on Jock Market is just way better than an app on like DraftKings or FanDuel, right?
100%. I started with $50 and made up to 2K with you guys in my first like 2 months. Yeah, absolutely.
You can, marketing guy here. I'm trying to win more and lose less, which is what I'm trying to say. So you can find a guy, especially in hockey, who IPOs for $2 or $3 a night. That person, if they have 2 goals, they have a hat trick, whatever, they can win the market, right? Or if you have a guy who IPOs for like $6 and they lose, you're not losing everything. You're always keeping that $1. So you're never it's not a binary sports bet the way that a DraftKings is, or the way that a traditional sports bet in Vegas is on the puck line or on the money line or whatever. So I think that's a huge advantage of Jock Market, where it's not binary. There's a wide range of outcomes where you can lose 20%, you can win 500%. So I think that's a huge advantage of our company.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Speaking of Jock Market, I'm up 127 for the night with only putting about like $40 in. So
exactly.
Yeah. I 100% love the format, man. Absolutely. So have you been with Jock Market from the beginning, Jonathan?
No. So I'm about to tell that story is I was about to say I played the game in August. So I am a huge golf guy. That's my daily fantasy betting of choice. Usually sports betting, not so much DFS. Can't play DFS now, unfortunately, because I work for Jock Market. But I heard Jock Market via Rick Gaiman. He's big in the golf DFS world. I don't know if you guys know who he is.
I don't know. I don't.
Via Rick Gaiman, he does really awesome data analysis and data stuff for golf. So I listen to him usually like my weekly like handicapping process or whatever. Kept mentioning Jock Market. I'm like, what is this? Like, I got to try it. So I did. I did pretty well, made some money, and then I was like, okay, I want to withdraw. And if you want to withdraw in your first 2 weeks, just for like, security reasons, whatever, we require manual review. So I emailed, and my boss, CEO, Dave, or founder, not CEO, responds. But I didn't know it was him. But I just kind of was like, this is a real person. Like, I was in a job I didn't really like too much. I loved data analysis, loved sports. As I said, this passion had started way back. So I emailed and I was like, hey man, like, are you guys hiring data analysts? Like, I'd love to work for you. This app's really awesome. And he emails back. He's like, of course, man, like send over a resume. And it was a match made in heaven from there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome.
Really cool story. And all those guys, Dave and Tyler, super welcoming. Like, they're really awesome. They run a great team there. Like, I'm forever grateful for them for giving me this opportunity. And like, I also love coming on shows like this, which is why I'm so sorry I'm late again, man. I feel so bad.
Oh no, dude, you're good, man. Me and Jim were hanging out just talking hockey. Like I said, we were going to recap the Flyers game no matter what. We were doing a recap before you.
Terrible.
But dude, Tyler was actually the first one that I actually reached out to. I tried to get a hold of him first, right? And then I didn't hear back. I'm like, oh, you know what? They probably got a lot going on, new company, all that stuff. And then the way I reached out to you guys was really just straight up on Twitter. I was like, yo, I'd like to have you guys on here. Like, I'm a fantasy sports guy. I play DFS a lot. I play football. I play hockey. Like, I like to do it. I'm like, I want you guys on my show. And then I messaged back and forth with the Twitter account, and then somebody goes, "Yeah, email Jonathan. That's who you
Yeah,
want to
so
talk
it's
to."
pretty funny because that customer support person is now me. I'm the data analyst, social media, customer support guy, like total startup life, which is
Oh,
really awesome. I like wearing all those different hats, and like it also gives me the ability to come on the show and like talk to you guys and like talk about Jock Market. And I love to talk to people and do stuff like this too. So it's really nice where I get to like wear a bunch of different hats rather than just totally being behind the scenes.
all right. So break it down for us from the beginning. How did Jock Market start? How did it come
Yeah.
up? Like you're like the founders. Like, just, where did this premise come from, and how did it grow into the company it is today?
So Tyler and Dave kind of came up with this idea together. I mean, there's kind of a funny story on the website. I won't speak to how 100% true or not that is about them kind of creating it when they were looking at a football game and someone gets hurt. But that's the basic idea. They were kind of like, well, with DraftKings and FanDuel, right? Like if one player gets hurt in your lineup, your day is over. It's ruined. Think like for me, I think about it like you wake up at 8 a.m. and your golfer has withdrawn from the lineup. Sorry, like see, there goes your $1 million, $100 entry down the drain. It's really unfortunate. So Dave and Tyler kind of wanted to create a game where it wasn't just about one player kind of ruining your lineup, and you could change dynamically your players and your investments in our case. So they kind of built that up from there. Then we started with our free contest a couple of years ago, where it's kind of like a poker tournament where everyone gets the same amount of chips and you can invest them that way. And then we eventually shifted into the main game we have now, which is real money markets, where you invest in players in real time, buy and sell with other users, or you can wait till the end. So that's kind of our story till now. We're growing. It's really awesome to now be on the inside, obviously, and help build this thing up. Like I said, forever grateful for Dave and Tyler. And I'm just really excited to kind of help with this and see where we go on this journey.
So I saw that you guys just got into the NASCAR market.
Yes, yes. We just launched NASCAR. We had a free contest for the Daytona, then I think it was like the Wise Power or something, and then the Pennzoil. I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy, but I think NASCAR is going to be really good for us. I think it's a really cool thing to do on Sundays, and I think DFS NASCAR is actually really big. I've never been into it myself, but I think there's some pretty good overlaps in the NASCAR DFS field, especially where you can really get that high return of someone like starting in like 15th place, IPOing for a few bucks, winning the race. I think that's a really strong appeal to users.
Yeah, I definitely play as far as DFS and just regular fantasy, whether it's hockey or football. I always draft for upside, play for upside because,
Yep.
I'm not trying to come in 11th place. I'm trying to come in first every single
Your
time.
first or your last, as Ricky Bobby once said.
I love it. Exactly, 100%. So one thing I'm curious about, so FanDuel and DraftKings, they're probably your two biggest. They're the head honchos right now in the DFS world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's who you're competing against. So one of the things they do, and we've looked into it a couple of times here at HW, is doing like private contests for your own friends or your own readers, like your own audience. Is Jock Market considering anything for like a private market just for like a group of people? If High and Wide Hockey over here, if we wanted to do just a hockey market just for our readers, right, just for our audience, 20 people play, a first play winner takes all, something like that. Is that something Jock Market's considering or talking about, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can't really totally speak to, our priorities or whatever, but I definitely think that's been brought up and mentioned, and we definitely want to. Just as a young company that's growing, I think we have a lot of things to like take care of and make sure. But I think that is certainly something we've heard a lot of interest from other people, and our users have reached out to us. So I think definitely down the line, we're going to try to get that done for you guys. And I certainly hope we'll be able to at some point in the future. I think it would be really awesome for people to play private contests like that. And especially like, if we could have people like, if you guys could do something like a beat the High and Wide Hockey where you guys have an ROI and other people try to beat them, I think that would certainly be really fun for our users too. So I think that eventually down the line, we'll be able to do something like that for sure. I know we've had a lot of interest from people at least.
Oh, I like how you mentioned the beat the ROI. That actually gives me another idea. We could have like a Flyers podcast competition, High
Yeah,
and Wide ROI versus like BSH ROI, Flyers.
exactly.
Yeah, like we could make it a whole
Do
thing.
something
But
like if you are in contact with like podcast networks for other teams like the Bruins or the Rangers, you guys could have like a competition over a week where you guys only invested in players on your own team and see who did better.
oh, dude, I like where your head's at. I see. So here,
Yeah.
so where I was thinking was I wanted to like, and I talked to Jim about this, about doing like a private like season long fantasy league somehow with like a championship ring at the end. Like, I want to like get like a fantasy company to come on with us, sponsor it. We'll get the ring, slap the logo on there, the High and Y logo, and we run a whole season long regular season fantasy hockey thing going. And whichever user, whatever audience member comes in first place at the end, whatever we use for it, ROI for Jock Market, if it's
Yeah, exactly.
DK or FanDuel, it'd be something else, but ROI, you know what I mean? Then you win a championship ring. Like, that's what we were thinking about.
I think something that is really fun for people when they play fantasy is just the interaction with friends and people that they like and enjoy talking to. So something like that would definitely like ramp up the interaction, and like when Jock Market helps bring sports fans together, or like helps friends do something like that, or like make a competition super fun. I think that's exactly what we were invented for, right? And exactly the engagement and stuff we're looking into our users, which is already really good. Like you can see people on Twitter talking about us. We have a Discord of people chatting about us now too. So something like that, where maybe, in the future where Jock Market grows, you see a Discord of like different fans of different teams, and they're chatting about their ROIs and like, have you beaten other people this week, and like different podcasts like you were talking about. So I definitely think as Jock Market grows and expands, like adding more features that will help people kind of build a community sort of within their own fantasy space, is certainly something that we're interested in, and we're looking forward to doing.
And you guys now have a Jock Market hashtag too, because I've been trying to find ways to tag you guys, but actually
Yeah,
just tweet
absolutely.
at you most of the time. So now,
Yeah, just tag us at Jock Market on Instagram and Twitter. Hashtag Jock Market, whatever you think.
now, Jim, I've seen some of your comments lately about your goalie situation for your fantasy team
Oh
out
no,
there.
don't make me talk about this. No,
What's
not
going
good.
on?
How much are you, Jim? How much are you a season-long fantasy player versus a DFS player?
So I'm really into dynasty, to be honest. Like dynasty sports. After I feel like after you get into the dynasty aspect, it's hard to do like the redraft kind of leagues. Um, so I'm in the dynasty, but I used to do the DFS, and I had the strategy down as far as picking like the same guys on the same line. But I didn't win very often, and most cases I was just throwing my money away, so that ended kind of quick.
I think daily fantasy, especially with DraftKings and FanDuel, got a lot more difficult when, I'm not sure if it started with this MIT paper. I'm sure it started before that, but it certainly felt like right as I was like becoming 18, whatever, old enough to play, that in the beginning it was like kind of the Wild West. And then all these people like started dedicating their time and money and resources, and then it became a lot harder to beat over time,
Right down to a science.
which is another reason why I think Jock Market is great. You don't need these fancy computer machine models. I mean, you can. Like, we have an API, so there's two ways, right? With Jock Market, you can use the API. You can be as mathematical and as surgical as you want with your approach, or you can be way more casual and just invest in one or two players a night, right? And I feel like increasingly in daily fantasies, DraftKings and FanDuel, that kind of casual fan aspect is way less and less available. And in Jock Market, we really open up the door to both people, right? If you want to be an API user, if you want to make your model and code, that is awesome. We encourage that. Our API docs are on our website. Go ahead. If you want to be a casual fan, trade a few players on your favorite team, you can still make a lot of money and have a lot of fun that way too. So I really think that's kind of where Jock Market separates itself from DraftKings and FanDuel.
I downloaded the app just while you were talking. I'm like, I got to see what this is all about
It's
here.
so fun, man. And like I said,
Wait, it's taking you a month to download. I told him about this app over a month ago. It's taking you a month to download this app.
you got to do it, man. It's so
Yeah.
fun. You know, it's really great.
Yeah, I got
I
it
was
on
also,
here for
you're
sure.
really into Dynasty, you were saying?
Yeah, I love it. I'm addicted to it.
You
It's
play fantasy football?
Yeah, I do football. You name it, I do it. Football. I'm not as good in baseball and basketball, but hockey and football I get into. Yeah.
So you should look at this league I'm in. It's called the Analytics Dynasty League. So I was the president of the sports analytics club at my college at Wake Forest University, and the old president was like, "Hey, I don't have time for this anymore. Do you want to be in a dynasty football league?" And I was like, "Sure." So what I didn't know is this dynasty fantasy football league is legitimately the NFL online. There's 50 pages of rules, 5 types of franchise tags, restricted and unrestricted free agency. There's a rookie draft every year. Like always, you can trade picks, you can trade salary cap. You start a full offense and defense, every position but offensive line. And scoring is based on win probability added. So every run, target, and passing attempt is -1, and every yard is plus 0.2. So you need a 3-yard gain to actually gain points. Otherwise, it's negative points. And quarterbacks are like way more valuable than everyone else. Like Mahomes and Herbert can have like 90-point games because chunk plays are so valuable. Yeah. Quarterback scoring is the same as running backs and wide receiver for yards and stuff. It is so fun.
That's how, I mean, I would have no life if I joined that league. Like, I would just be on that 24/7.
You don't, it's like until it's like 1 a.m. and also it's 32 teams, 2 16-team conferences.
Oh my God.
Dude, high and wide would cease to exist.
For real though, I would have a real problem with that. Like I need to
when
go
you're
to
grinding over like 0.3 million on a trade offer. Like my team, I was rebuilding, so I traded away Devontae Adams and Tyler Lockett for like 4 first-round picks. I actually got pretty good deals. So now I'm like scouting. I'm in the draft combine.
Yeah. It's year round. It never ends. That's what we're everyone's freaking out over the Russell Wilson trade today. It's like, who's this good for? Who's that good for?
Because like Noah Fant and them all got traded too.
I know. My first thought was, who's got Noah Fant and all the Denver receivers? And then you find out that he's going the other way, and you're like, that sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, to quote my boy Adam Levitan from ETR, you gotta pay attention to the Bible narrative. Russell Wilson's a big Bible guy. Cortland Sutton is too. That's the connection right there. Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton. That's what you want next year. That's the Bible narrative.
I had no idea.
Wow, I didn't know that either. Well, I didn't know Russell Wilson was big into that. I didn't know about Cortland Sutton.
Yeah. So that's what it is. It's similar to didn't they talk about Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford going to brunch every week, this year? And then Kupp, that was a big deal. Kupp and Stafford used to hang out and go do brunch every weekend, and then Kupp goes and sets wide receiver records. Listen, it's the numbers you can't find, Jonathan. That's where some of this stuff lies in. Yeah, sometimes it's not numbers.
The models don't tell you, right? It's the insider. It's the insider information.
Yeah, another thing that happened today. I just recently saw this. I guess it's big for Dynasty if you have defense in the leagues. Bobby Wagner was also released. I don't know if you guys saw that from Seattle.
No. And then Amari Cooper is going to get released from Dallas.
Yeah,
too.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Basketball season's right around the corner for NFL right now.
Yeah, it's the draft and free agency is super fun, especially in this league because it's like free agency is crazy.
So Jonathan, we mostly have a Philadelphia-based audience based in Pennsylvania. So right now, I believe the Jock market, it's only the free play contest.
Yes,
in Pennsylvania. So what's the outlook for PA?
We are working on it. I don't want to reveal too much here, but we are working on it, and we hope to be legal as soon as possible. But we are in the process. We are working on it.
So like playoffs, for the Flyer.
You're gonna get me in trouble, but I promise we are hard at work on it. We know our Philadelphia Flyers fans, Steelers fans, Penguins fans alike are all gonna want to play. So we're hard at work on it, and we're trying as hard as we can.
Oh, man, well, I guess that's the best we can do right now for
I know, guys. I apologize again. I'm sorry. We're trying as best I can, and when we get approval, if we get approval, I'll be sure the Flyers fans here at High and Wide Hockey are going to be the first to know.
Oh, no, we appreciate that, man. Let us break the news. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Jersey's good though, right?
Yeah. New Jersey should be good. If you go to our website, jockmarket.com/states. You'll see our states legal in, I think, 34 or 35 with, again, hopefully a few more big ones coming as soon as possible.
Pennsylvania takes forever with everything, to be honest with
you. Again, I can't really say anything, but let's just say, you heard some of these stories about getting licensed in these states. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, they let people drive to Delaware and New Jersey to gamble for like a decade and a half before they legalized it.
It's a little silly. I live in Boston, so you can drive to New Hampshire to place a bet, right? Like, what? I mean,
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't really make sense.
I did it for like 6 years. I would drive down to Delaware Park Casino and Racetrack. It was like, 30 minutes from my apartment. I would drive there every Sunday and place my bets and then drive back home. I'd go down there, place my bets, play a little bit of roulette or craps for, an hour or so, drive back home, get some food and watch the games. every Sunday for like 5-6 years. In Pennsylvania, kept like, oh no, we're not going to legalize gambling. Like, why? Like, you're
Yeah,
literally just giving the money to other
yeah,
states.
it does seem a little silly when you're losing a lot of tax revenue, and also like, are you saying, like, again, I don't want to get myself in trouble. It's just like, are you saying people aren't going to gamble? They're just going to do it illegally.
Yeah.
Why not tax the money and make it safer for people? Like, doesn't make sense to me. I'm hopeful eventually it'll get legalized everywhere. Just like regulation, and this is one industry where you probably you want regulation, you want it to be controlled, and you get a lot of tax income to help better your state's infrastructure and whatever. So I can't see how there's a possible loss in legalizing sports betting.
Anybody that's still like betting illegally, I think, has to just be like super lazy. Like there has to be a state within like 20 minutes of you that you could just drive across the border and place the bet. Like if you're still going to the corner bookie down at the bar, like, come on, man. Like,
this isn't The Sopranos. They're not gonna chop off your pinky if you if you don't pay.
Yeah, like jump on 95, go hit one of the local states. You could probably find it just about anywhere in 20 minutes. But man, listen, we're pushing up over the 50-minute mark, man. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to give the floor back to you, all right? Anything you want to hype up, anything you want to discuss, any personal products you have, it's all you. It's all you right now. Anything you want to do, this is your time.
No personal products here. I would just say, if you enjoy daily fantasy sports, if you want to try something new, I would highly recommend Jock Market. Just a quick spiel, because I haven't totally said what it is. It's a daily fantasy stock exchange game. Before every NHL, NBA, slate, PGA, NFL, whatever, all players start at $1. There's a fixed amount of shares of each player. The bid price of the player implies how good of a fantasy night that player has to do. If you bid $3 on them, they have to be the 23rd ranked fantasy player. For example, if they're 22nd or better, their stock will make money. You'll increase on your $3 investment. At the end of the night, the payouts are fixed. First place is always $25, for example. So, for example, on that $3 player you invested in, they're the best overall fantasy player that night. You make $22 per share. The best part is you can buy, sell, even short sell live during the game with other users. If you want to get out of your position, add more, whatever. Just adds in a lot more fun. You can, like, build a portfolio of players you like, players that are undervalued, players you think you're going to win. No binary bets, not like sports betting where you bet or you win or you lose. You can win a lot. You're not going to lose that much because there are fixed payouts at the end of the night. Every player is $1, set amount, you're going to lose. And I just really think that it's an awesome, new, fun way to play DFS. Like I said, I'm working at the company because I played it. That's how much I love it. So, especially in hockey, it's one of the sports that is a little smaller. So if you know a lot, you can really have a big edge. Really fun time. Get in there, have some fun, play some Jock Market. I think that's what I have to say. And I'd love to come on again to make up for those 20 minutes I missed again. I'm so sorry. So really excited. Thank you guys again for having me. So let's do this again soon. I'd love to.
Oh,
What
John,
Bruins?
Yeah, John, absolutely, man. You're welcome anytime. We're going to run this all the way through the Stanley Cup Finals, man. So we'll definitely bring you back on, talk some more Jock Market, especially if you guys go live in certain cities and stuff like that, man. You're welcome here anytime, man. We really appreciate it, dude.
No problem.
Jim, what do you got? You got anything else for Jonathan? Anything you want to talk about? Your final thoughts for the night?
No, that's it. You were awesome, Jonathan. We really appreciated you hanging out, and whenever you want to come back on, man, we got to do this again. I enjoyed listening and learning and talking fantasy, obviously.
Yeah, guys. Again, thank you so much for having me. So sorry for being late. And
don't sweat it, dude.
Let's do it. Let's do it sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Hell yeah. So for the man, Jim Icavone, for our very special guest, Jonathan Bell, I'm Delco Dave. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, High and Wide fam.
No problem.